Now, for more on the preparations rather for the crowning of King Charles III and the unique expectations, a global affairs analyst, Gbenga Onifade, joins me now from the United Kingdom. Good to have you join us.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I can just imagine how the atmosphere is in the United Kingdom. We've been seeing pictures, live pictures from there, seeing people on the street trying to get a first glance of the king as it marches out from Buckingham Palace tomorrow. But I wanted to ask you, Queen Elizabeth ceremony came after the Second World War, and that's Queen Elizabeth II. And many thought that that signaled a new start for Britain. But for King Charles, he's been crowned at a time of Britain's exit from the European Union. Does this hold the same significance?
To a large extent, firstly, King Charles is not as popular as the charismatic, very well respected Queen Elizabeth, the mother, and of course, the exit from the European Union. Things or situations are quite high. So, and a lot of people are demanding that we are still spending this huge amounts of money on this kind of celebration. But on the other hand, the government are making an argument saying this is a uniting entity, and they're justifying the cause really as to why it has to be spent. I think there was a questionnaire, a survey that was performed, and I think they still had about, I wouldn't call it overwhelming, but still a larger percentage is still supporting the royal celebrations of the royal family. But now we are having a greater voice who are, calling for Republicans as well, and they're being announced. So yeah, so it's how do I say, things are not equally as balanced, and the I wouldn't call it an outrage at the moment. Of course, there's still so much celebration, but it's not as overwhelming as it was, in the case of Queen Elizabeth II.
Hmm. And how significantly has the role of the royal family changed over the years?
Oh, by a great law, actually. I think now we do have the ruling forces. Of course, majority are still in support, but more and more of them are actually, moving on to the right. In this case, overwhelmingly now, the power has actually been taken from them. So they're more or less, figurehead, head of state, really. They do not have a say in the ruling of the government, even though the government do have to go to them, to seek certain permissions when the prime minister is trying to be appointed or is trying to resign, for example. But they do not have a right as to who is or is not, or neither do they have a say in the electoral process either. So they have actually been, the power's actually been totally devolved, and they're more or less just as a figurehead, head of state, celebratory in a sense.
And as King Charles will be crowned tomorrow, there are fewer countries that has the monarch as head of state than when Queen Elizabeth II was crowned in 1953. What's the sustainability of the Commonwealth under King Charles III?
One thing you don't want to do is, as in the case of Liz Truss, the former prime minister who Rishi Sunak took over from, when we had, was it a cabbage, to see who's going to outlast each other. We don't want to do that right now. I think there's been a few debates who think, we probably should place that bet. Is it going to outlast this whole thing? But I think, while I believe there's still the support out there, the Republicans who are calling for equal rights among everybody, who are saying, one person should not be more equal than the other person, they are actually calling for equality. And I think they are having the biggest, they're going to have their biggest campaign, ever since the whole thing started. So while King Charles is still quite popular among some people, but I think, should I call it the newer generations, the Gen Zs, and even the older one a little bit, Gen X, they haven't allowed a say as well, and the majority are not as supportive. Number one, number two, things are quite tight, and most people are rather saying, you know what? Yes, I'll take the bank holiday day off because we're having a 3-day celebration. I'll take the day off as a day of rest, but I'm not a participant in it. Some people are sitting on the fence as well, but majority are moving to the right. But again, on a personal note, is someone who I think people still like him. They think they can relate with him, and he, in this case as well, is getting more involved. He's opening up more to issues of environment, issues of multiculturalism, which wasn't as prevalent before. But overall, I think it's not as loud as things are. And I mean, I wouldn't place a bet against it at all. But many are thinking these things are winding down, and they don't think, I wouldn't want to place a timeline on it. But people are thinking this is actually the whole death of the corporation or family as it is eventually. But I wouldn't be able to place a bet on that at all, or when it will die, or whether it will die, or whether it will stay. I wouldn't be able to place a bet on that. But overall, the overwhelming general, the power's been devolved. You don't have much of a say. Country, but at the same time, things are going to be reviewed. Cost benefit analysis. Is it still worth the government? Is it still worth the status as a symbol? But that's something which I'm sure is being reviewed behind the scenes. But generally, overall, I think more and more people are shifting as it is. And of course, the general older generations who kind of grew with the family, they're still there. But of course, the generation is dwindling, while the newer generations who are more favoring that equality, the voices are getting louder and they're actually being heard as well.
And irrespective of how people feel, or irrespective of how people feel about the role of the monarchy and the royal family as a whole, I can assure you that almost every eye, or all eyes, will be glued to television tomorrow to see the pomp of pageantry that accompanies this coronation. Thank you so much for talking to us. Global Affairs analyst Benga Onifade.
Thanks for having me.